All these markets are kind of familiar to us, or at least they are less unusual. But if we look at current market researchers, what we see is the forecast that the maximum increase in the global trade, in the world trade, if we speak about milk products, will be associated with quite a different region. It will be associated with the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, UAE, United Arab Emirates, Algeria, Iraq, Egypt. They are already the largest importers of milk. And many studies, as I have pointed out, that agree that in the future it is exactly these countries who will be responsible for the main increase in the trade. And especially if we're speaking about the trade from Russia, so these markets are extremely prospective. Why are these markets of special interest to us? I would say that this can refer to our last slide. Well, first of all, because of the logistics. We definitely have an advantage before New Zealand, before, I don't know, Australia, USA, and maybe even Latin America in terms of our delivery. So, Mr. Sayegh, I want to come in our discussion to you. Do you agree with a similar assessment that the Middle East markets will be the ones that will be responsible for that increase in the world trade? Can you tell us something about these markets? What do you want to import? How easily can we enter these markets? And what kind of products do you long for? What can Russia be of use? Ghassan Sayegh, General Manager of Middle East Agri-Food Publishers.
Thank you everybody for being here and for trusting my answer, because the Middle East is an easy market and it's a very difficult market in the same time. I mean, the Middle East need all the food products, and he can afford it because he's paying. Some of the Middle East countries has enough petroleum to pay that. Now, what are the difficulties? It's not so easy because the Middle East is quite fragmented, and you know the situation. I will start immediately with some figures. Just imagine Algeria, who is one of the main markets of France, for example. They have this part of production, the one you see in red, consumption, and this is one of the major consumers of milk in the Middle East. They consume mainly yogurt. In the Middle East, we consume much more yogurt than any other product. The production, you see it, and they are still importing. Take a look at Egypt. Egypt is half of the Arab populations. Even in Egypt, they are importing. The numbers, you will see it. I will not take too much of your time of these numbers, but each of these countries, depending on their populations, they are importing much more than they are producing. Well, except a little bit about Saudi Arabia, who has farms, several farms of more than 80,000 cows per farm. I know they don't have 50 farms like in other places in France, but also in Egypt or Sudan, they have families of 4 cows, but 1 million families. So it depends on the country where we're working with. Saudi Arabia is almost self-sufficient. But then you continue for the other countries where we have Syria that has been distracted a little bit by its infrastructure, Iraq much more. Iraq is no more producing, importing mainly. And so, you see, if you take as a whole the Middle East, let's sum up everything, you see that the consumption, the production is much less than half of the consumption. All the rest is imported. So there are enough space for everybody. Now, they are producing, I've told you, even farms up to 80,000. The smallest farms are 4,000, 3,000. But can this production in the coming 10 years or 5 years meet the consumption? Well, you see, I already put to you that we have instability, political instabilities. There's no reason to tell you about. Lack of water. Even if we desalinate, we have to pay the water to desalinate it. And so, if you imagine the cost of 1 liter of milk is, well, I will reach the calculations, because you need 8 liters of water to make 1 liter of milk if you don't produce forages. So imagine that if you pay only 20 cents to desaline 1 liter of water, you are already more than $1. So the global warming effect, the desert is gaining, even if we are planting deserts, and we have an increase of birth rates. So all these will have more consumption than production. The consumption will increase. The population will increase. The worldwide population will increase by 40%. But the Middle East will grow faster. And it's a young country. That means, if we are going to speak about milk, young people consume much more milk than adults. Adults, I mean over 25. So you have 52.7% of the population young. That will bring in more than double the need of milk, of the actual need, which already we are importing more than double our consumption. So, as place is concerned, this is why I say easy, there is place, but there is also one other thing I forgot to tell you, that we are consuming around the best country, the best ones are consuming 121 liters of milk, kilograms of milk per capita, and the others lowers. And the average is almost 115. We cannot calculate the worldwide average because we have to sum up the Finland and Finnish consumption, which is up to 350 kilograms per person per year. But anyway, the average, we are still lower than the average. And if you take the European average, putting all Europe together, we are more than 260 kilograms per person. That means that if we provide more dairy products to the market, there may be also an increase of the actual consumption per capita. So I think, according to the calculation, we may reach up to 57% increase in the coming 10 years. Now, for sure, if we are importing in the Middle East, that means that already countries are exporting, and they already have good quality and already low prices. This is where I see it difficult. But the difficulty is not so big, because the products are needed. Let's face it. So just to tell you, here I put all Europe in one country, but as a matter of fact, Germany is the major exporter, but also France, the second one. We don't have to forget Netherlands, Belgium. If we put it all together, it's more than New Zealand. But if we defragment, if we divide the European countries, New Zealand will be the major exporter of milk today. But already Belarus or Poland are between the top 10 exporters of milk. Czech Republic is exporting, so there is place in exportation. Now, there is one thing I have to conclude this answer in a few recommendations, maybe, much more than giving numbers, because as a matter of fact, it will double the actual, and even if we double the production, and even if the countries that are doubling, we are still facing, we need. But we have to take in consideration the climate. This is one of the projection. We cannot give you exact numbers. I can tell you that if I need 8 liters to produce 1 liter of milk, or 1,200 liters if I want to also produce the crop, I think if we can concentrate on powder milk production, we can reach the consumer with 1 liter of water having 1 liter of milk. And this will help the poorer consumer to reach. And if you make your calculations, poorer consumers are much, much, much more than richer ones. And don't forget that Russia has one thing that is really precious. I don't know how much millions of dollars it will make thousands, but kefir is one of the best probiotics in the world, and you can work on that. Take care of your purchase power. You cannot sell to people who cannot pay you. This is normal, it's very logical. So take care about where you are selling. I don't know some countries, but some people go, sell, take as much they can, end up the market, dry the market, and they leave it. It's better to be sustainable in your selling, maintaining the, let's say, maintaining the purchase power of your client, respecting its regulations and income. What did I do?
I think it was just something with the electricity. Hope it will be okay in a second. Yeah, just give it a couple of seconds.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
My last question will not answer here. You are speaking about selling your products there. Why not producing there? There is water, there is sun. You have the know-how. You can also produce concentrated product and reproduce there. There is one rule. All what I've said could be nothing, because the only one rule you can ask yourself, why the dinosaurs get extincted. It's because they didn't adapt. In a market like ours, which is defragmented, unstable, and mutating, the only answer for your questions is adaptation and loving your work.
And passion. Yeah, Mr. Sayegh, thank you very much, especially for all of your recommendations. Но вот наша текущая